Testing, testing. You are good, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to take the.
Make sure your mics are on. Yep.
These are all new stuff for us. We got to remember to do this. Good evening. Thank you all for attending. I'd like to open the meeting. Today is an open forum session, so we have nothing on the agenda. It's all about what questions you may have. And quite frankly, I show we have a full quorum. We're missing one council member who is out of town, but out of country, out of town, not here. But we do have a full quorum here. Most of the time, we have coffee with council, which I think one is coming up tomorrow. So if you have any questions further, you can certainly join. I think it's you and I tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. But that's a way to get the dialogue going, and that's kind of the thought
6 o'clock.
tomorrow night at 6. Did I say? Okay. I'll be there either way. I'll get my schedule. But those are great times to dialogue back and forth with council. A lot of times here in these meetings, you just get to speak, and we have a rule not to respond because we need sometimes to look into things. But I will tell you, we just got off a retreat, which we had for a day and a half, and we talked about all kinds of subjects. So lots of exciting things happening for the Village of Marvin. We got some updates on some things, and we're excited with the direction that things are going, but we also always want to test the waters to make sure we're doing the right thing for the community, because we're working for you. We're just putting policy to paper. So with that, I will take any open questions of anything you want to know about in the Village of Marvin.
And if you have a question, come up to this first mic where Christina's sitting, and so that way we have it on audio.
Yep, and just whenever you come up, just state your name and your address.
And you don't have to live in Marvin. We're okay with that. We like neighbors too.
Don't be shy, come on.
And John, I know you have a
I know
question.
somebody's got a question. The happenings.
Well, so,
Somebody has to ask them.
yeah,
Please.
that's okay. It's okay. I mean, I think we can give you an update on one thing. Maybe that'll lead to some questions.
If you just want to reiterate the questions if they don't come up so that the audience or the recording.
Okay, so he's asking the question, to update on the branding that we're in the middle. We're kind of right in the middle of branding, changing our logos, our emblems. And that's a company that we hired, and they've actually spent a number of months now, probably over 6 months, working on that. And we haven't officially approved. We're going in the right direction where we do have, you'll probably see some changes in, for some things, color and just the different logo. It's going to be a different look. If you look at the current logo right now, I think it has a golf club on it.
And the field that looks like a watermelon, so
It's
you'll
got- yeah.
never not see the watermelon now.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry?
hey, if you're gonna, come up here so people can hear. Seriously, so that we can get it on the recorder. You were there. You come up.
Anyone listening online.
I know, they
if you're
can't
not-
hear you.
you're-
Come up.
Don't be
Will.
shy. Don't be
Mr.
shy,
Mayor.
Will. We know Will. He sits on one of our boards, but he also is a resident, obviously. That's,
He's also on the branding committee.
yeah, that's even better. You want to bring up what's going on
He
at the
really
brand?
doesn't.
So staff contact for the project manager is Austin. He's our clerk and assistant to myself. If you want to let him give an update, he probably has the best update of all.
Okay, so thus far, the council has approved the new primary logo and the new seal. The new primary logo has the tagline "Enriched by Nature." We've really focused in on the abundance of natural resources that are in Marvin. With our community branding survey, the most common responses we received about what is the best thing about Marvin, it was Marvin Eford Park, the value that Marvin has placed on maintaining that rural natural feel. With the new seal has this beautiful building on it. We're working on the color palette right now. And a lot of the other logos that we're going to be using for our various events. The council will be approving our full branding style guide in a couple weeks. And at that point, we'll be deploying all the new logos to social media, to our website and our event banners and whatnot. And then we'll be progressing into the wayfinding half of the project, which is going to involve the design and installation of directional signage around Marvin to really highlight our destinations and our resources. So you'll see signs be deployed over the next few years as we get pricing, as we finalize those designs, and as we actually set forth an installation plan.
And directional signs obviously important. A lot of people still today don't know that we have a beautiful park that you can go enjoy. It's not in the heart of Marvin, so but it is something that's available. We got a question in the back? You want to come up? Sorry. Or I can repeat it if it's a quick question. So. You're a Boy Scout, so say your name and if you would, and you're with the Boy Scouts, right?
Yes, I'm with the Boy Scouts. My name is Colin Wilson, and I was wondering, being with the Boy Scouts, to become a full Eagle Scout, you need to do an Eagle project. So I was wondering what the process would be to start like finding needs in the community to create like the beginnings of an Eagle project.
I'm going to direct you
Derek.
over to Derek, who is our parks manager, and he has in the past worked with some Boy Scouts. And so
Thank you for your willingness to serve the community. It's pretty simple, straightforward process. You can start a conversation with me over email or phone, but now we've met face to face. I have another resident who serves on our Parks, Recreation, and Greenways Advisory Board, who is sort of our liaison between me and the Eagle Scouts. But if he's not available, I can meet you anytime. We have a list of current needs that we would like to see that are on our website, but we're also willing to have a conversation about something different. If you're really passionate about, a certain project and you want to go that route, then you give me the proposal, I take it to council and, they give you the thumbs up or thumbs down. And I mean, we can make it happen quick or, you tell me your timeline and we're glad to work with you in any way possible. So.
Okay. And where did you say the list was for
Uh,
the community?
So we do have it on our website at the moment. I can actually navigate to it really fast. Some of the scout projects that we have listed as requested are trailhead markers, picnic tables and benches for our future pocket park that we have at Marvin Gardens. And we have fitness trail stations listed, but you would need more information from Derek about that.
Okay. Thank you.
And one of the things one of the Boy Scouts did years ago was a place to dispose of your flags, which I thought was pretty cool. So for the community, if you have an old flag that you need to get rid of, you can drop it off here and we dispose of them properly, which is the way to go with that. So, but thank you for your interest and we look forward to what ideas you might come up with. So.
Thank you.
Good.
Any more on wayfinding?
That's all I have.
Okay. Welcome, Will.
Residents on Marvin School Road. I'm just wanting to know what the process is now being done to have the waste management include glass recycling. Because Weddington has got that.
I can take that. So we are actually, we looked at that from a standpoint of providing it as a curbside service for residents. And it was more economically beneficial for all of Marvin to include that as a subscription service for the resident. So if any of you that's in attendance tonight or that's listening at home want glass recycling, we're working with Active to include that as a subscription so that you could have that, but you would pay for that subscription yourself directly. Majority of Marvin residents have not requested glass recycling, we've only heard from a handful of folks. And in order for Active to do that as a service that we provide to residents, it would have to be a cost borne to all of residents. And at this point in time, our council felt that it was more beneficial for those that wanted it to pay for that service as opposed to making all residents in Marvin pay for that service.
So yes, I mean, we're going to review the contract as we say. I mean, we have talked about it. I mean, even to the point where we would hold a bin here, you bring your glass here, but guess what's going to happen? We'll have glass all over the parking lot because people will just, miss the containers and stuff like that. So having it being responsible. I guess the next step would be, Will, in fairness, is to, and I'm sure we've already done this, but when you look at what we provided so many more services than the average waste hauling service would do. And the cost was cut. I think you said you saved $100 from what she was using. And if you had Active, your price likely came down, but I didn't have Active and I saw that my price came down and now it's just rolled into. No, but it's service related because based on, I got a oil change today. It was so expensive. I'm thinking of changing my own oil. I'm like, but then what would I do with my oil? And then, but we don't necessarily have that. If we were to go down to, is it South Carolina? You have the Foxhole and stuff. So, but I think we'll always be open to that. I mean, I don't think we've had to Christina's point, we've had very few requests. We've had some, and I have to be reminded. So if you don't know, your glass should not go with the recycle. It is a much different process and a lot more tedious. Regular trash, yes, at this point. So, and that was something I learned as we were negotiating with contracts on that.
Well, you're probably wondering why that they won't recycle glass. And I'll answer that with you asking. Is that they said when they get on there and they go around the conveyor, that the glass breaks. They wind up and it falls on their floor and they wind up with very little glass at the end of it.
I have a question. I'm at 1146 Rose Cliff. Eford Park is like right behind us. There's like PDS. And so I'm right next to Marvin High. That's where my neighborhood is. So that whole area there, I'm just curious as why is that whole area not annexed into Marvin?
Come on in. You want to be in Marvin? Come on in. Get your neighborhood to come on in. We invite you. We would love to have you.
So your neighborhood?
Rose
I
Cliff.
live right beside Marvin High. So I didn't realize that it wasn't part of Marvin
Marvin.
until.
The high school,
Few
right
weeks
across,
ago.
right across from Woodhull. You're at
Right,
West
yeah.
Cliff.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So
So what has to happen to get that annexed?
So it is a voluntary
Austin,
process.
get her number.
Okay. There's a few caveats which aren't really hard to meet. But to give you a little history of what had happened is years ago, there was a land grab. And Marvin was picking off communities, neighborhoods, Waxhaw was doing it. It got to a point where the legislature at the state level said, no more forced annexing. At this point, you have to volunteer to be annexed into a town. Now, what has been created is what's called donut holes. So you could be, my wife even questions like, are we in Marvin now? I'm like, no, you'd be driving, you're in Marvin, then you're out of Marvin,
Exactly.
then you're back in Marvin,
Exactly.
then you're out of Marvin.
Exactly.
And that's fair, but, and we have appealed to the county to kind of get behind this, which I don't know if it's falling on deaf ears or not, but we want, like this neighborhood across the street, why wouldn't that be Marvin?
PDS.
PDS.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be Marvin? It's part of Marvin, but show me someone who's going to volunteer to pay a tax. No one's going to volunteer to pay a tax. So we got to start creating services, give people reasons to, in the past, the council 10 years ago, one of the reasons they gave is, oh, you can't go to Marvin Park or Eford Park if you're not a Marvin resident. Well, we changed that. Okay. It's open to the public, but we want to provide services to the community. We started with, the waste hauling. Okay. So now we've standardized on one company, which means one truck in your neighborhood on that day that are assigned to go in there. There's not multiple trucks, because if you're a neighbor, there's 4 different companies you can pick from. And one of the reasons for that too is we, years ago, and full disclosure, I was against it, is years ago, we got into the road business. And we're taking over roads, because I think at the state level, if you'd go to the state as a neighborhood or even a town, say, fix our roads, state would look at you and say, hey, you're way down the list. We can't even get to secondary roads. So they voted to take over roads. And keep in mind, we were at 5 cents tax rate, which is very low. So you got all these competing communities that were land grabbing, and now the state said no more things. You have to volunteer. Well, there was a gentleman that was on one of our boards that got neighbors to join Marvin. Their fear was that if that decision at the state level ever went away, then Waxhaw could potentially come in and take them. Now, do you want to pay 38 cents per $100 value of your home, or do you want to pay 5 cents? And, and again, they have more services, they have their own police force, and there's all these different things. So we were just discussing that at our retreat, and a lot of good reasons why we're trying to figure out how to bring people in. And it starts, back to your original question, with if you touch Marvin, if you're a neighbor, if you touch Eford Park, technically you could come in. We have, last year, how many people did we bring in? In fact, across the street from Marvin, that developer, there were 5 homes there.
Yep.
He volunteered to become part of Marvin, so he is now a thing.
So I should get everyone in my neighborhood to agree?
No,
Not necessarily. That would be amazing. And we would
I would
love,
definitely annex. I'll work for it.
we would love to help you
we'll
do
put you on
that.
council.
Like, I don't know why they wouldn't want to do it. Like, it doesn't make sense. I lived in
Yes.
Weddington for 18 years, and so I just assumed that it was the same here as it is over there. Very different.
Yeah, yeah. So we can get you with Austin. Austin knows everything about
I
annexation,
do.
how to do it, what needs to be done, what all the rules are. But we would love to come and talk to your HOA board.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And try
I
to,
mentioned it to the HOA board.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't even know. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like,
yeah.
you're supposed to know this.
Yeah,
You're the HOA.
well, and it's
Yeah.
funny, because you share the same zip code, so people are like, are we in Marvin, are we in Waxhaw, are we, and, a lot of people don't know, and we would love to come and help educate, and we would love to invite your
That'd
neighborhood.
be great. And my friend lives in the neighborhood behind me, which is, it was Keith Bell's old neighborhood. I can't think of it.
Remember Keith?
Walden. They're not.
Oh, yeah, Walden Pond.
Yep, yep.
We'd love to have them come on in too.
Yep.
They said, yeah, we'd love.
So let me throw this at you as you're thinking and you're talking to someone. So
Listen,
let me
get
ask the
hard.
question. You have an issue with what's going on with the state or what's going on with the county? Who's your representation? If you're just a neighborhood and you've got to complain about something going on in the neighborhood, you really don't have representation. You're going to your HOA board, whereas we, as a council, have the ability to kind of push issues and we created a new, about a year, almost 2 years now, a group called WUMA, Western Union County Municipal Alliance. We have our next meeting on Thursday. It's open to the public. It's made up of council members and stuff, and we're sharing ideas with others and stuff. And we are really, because think about this, if you're a Marvin resident right now, and you talk about roads and taxes going up because you got to pay for it, and I'm like, the taxes are right here. All we have to do is tap into what is right here. And nobody gets a tax raise, and you looked at it today, 700, almost more than half of our budget would come in
From our neighborhoods.
from our neighborhoods.
I said, they were complaining about the potholes on Newtown. I'm like, well, we need to get together with all the money here and pay for it ourselves.
It gets better because years ago, when we didn't have these roundabouts, my favorite call was from an individual from Waxhaw, North Carolina, and said, where in the, are those police officers? Why aren't they directing traffic? And our response was, you're welcome. Those police officers are paid by Marvin residents so you could get home. Now, there are so many different things we can do in Marvin, including when we talk about services, we talked a lot about the pathways and greenways that are, you know, you can get so far and then it stops because we're out of money. It's 6 cents. You can only do so much. But again, you give me a budget of another $700,000. Now we're earmarking and we're completing all these. So we have connectivity between all the neighborhoods. You have representation in your town. You have standard services as far as waste hauling and that. And if you want to keep your gates, guess what? We're going to let you keep your gates. I think we're probably leaning towards, if you want to put a gate in your neighborhood, you can do that. What you give up is us taking care of the roads
Yeah.
and stuff. So, so there's a pathway for all of this, but we're slowly getting reasons to why wouldn't you be part of Marvin rather than, you know, just, and it's 6 cents. The average home, if it's, let's say it's 800 to, average home
It's $1 million.
No. I'm saying for the average home in Marvin though, in Marvin, I think is like high sixes.
Yeah.
But say your home was $1 million, your tax rate, if you were in Waxhaw, you'd be $3,800 to Waxhaw. If you're in Marvin, you're $600. So
Do you know if Rose Cliff do you guys maintain, does your HOA maintain your roads? Or have they been, or does the county or
I'm new to
DOT?
the neighborhood, so
Okay.
I had a lot of questions about the reserves myself.
Okay,
So the neighborhood just got bought out by the HOA. because
Okay.
The developer just finished. So I'm not quite sure like where we are with that because I think the developer has to do so much to the road.
Yeah.
And to the retention ponds before they leave.
Yep.
And then after that, we pick it up or whatever. But that's a good question that I don't really.
okay. Because if you did come into Marvin, then, and your roads are up to like our standard, then we would be able to maintain them.
Yeah,
Like,
they're in good shape right now.
Yeah, so I mean, that's also another big plus for your neighborhood because you guys don't have gates. So that would be another large selling point. So again, we would love to come
How
in.
many neighbors in the neighborhood have to be a part of it?
If you have, so I think if you have one that like abuts Marvin, like anybody that abuts Marvin can come in. But if you had, say, like a whole street that wanted to come in, like then one whole street could come in, even if they didn't abut Marvin, is that right?
So,
they have
You have to,
No,
so
they have to touch each other.
you have to touch Marvin in some way. If a
unless the
neighborhood
whole
doesn't,
neighborhood does.
if a
it.
neighborhood
Okay.
doesn't touch Marvin anyway, they all have to come in together.
Okay.
HOA land plus individual
Okay.
homes. And ma'am, can I get your name?
Tammy Haynes,
Say again?
Haynes, Haynes,
And what was your address?
1146
114.
Rose Cliff Drive.
So one of the challenges we have is we're taking over roads. We have a neighborhood and it was done in a neighborhood and we're in the process of doing the roads. But guess what? We have individual homes in that neighborhood that aren't Marvin. So what do you do? So the HOA took it upon themselves we had a big, you know, say, hey, look, we're just looking for you to start paying taxes going forward. And we brought in out of the 26 homes in, what was the neighborhood? Weddington Chase. We brought in, I think, close to 20 homes, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still 6 out.
Chase is in Marvin?
Yes. Oh, you didn't know that? So if you touch Weddington Chase, you got a shot. But think of that makes it a little bit challenging when neighborhoods were developed years ago. It's like somewhere, you know, and when the developers were building it, hey, if I don't have to pay a tax, we're moving on with, you know, you're Marvin, you're not, you're Marvin. It's just, yeah. Yeah. So that you can thank our thank our state legislatures for that, but we are trying and it's a voluntary, we're not going to force anything on anyone, but we want to give them reasons to come in. So good question though. That's something that probably most people don't even know and they're learning as we go. So. I know what I can ask. I'll ask the question. It's, oh, you were gonna ask a question. Awesome. I thought you were, I thought.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Son's right there. He can't leave.
My name is Norm Wilson. What address information do you need? Sorry.
Street addresses.
Street,
Yeah,
11019 Royal Colony, 11019.
okay.
11019 Royal Colony.
That's a reserve, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
You mentioned the roundabouts.
Yes.
So I feel like, 2 home runs and a complete miss. What happened to the third one?
There's no miss.
It's coming.
Is it?
Yes.
Yes, and that was the question I was going to ask, because that is the number one question. Where's the roundabout? Why isn't it done yet?
Yeah, because those other two, that was like magic.
Yep.
Yeah.
They look good too, don't they?
Sorry?
They
They-
look good too, don't they?
All the landscape work we've done on it.
Yeah, he's patting himself on the back because he did the landscaping. So those are state-owned roads, so you know.
Okay.
Just tell them when they're coming. They let the project. They are supposed to be picking their vendor any day now, and they're
18th?
supposed to, knock on wood, start in April.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They're moving utilities, so
There's a big machine over there right now.
I saw it,
Did you
yeah.
See that, right? When,
Yeah.
if you were in that roundabout where they were directing traffic, they got something there that,
Yeah.
so they're,
Can start clearing trees.
yeah.
it is happening. Unless they pull out the rug from underneath us yet again, but we're so close. I've knocked on wood a bunch of times today. So it was supposed to start in 19.
It's not like.
It's not lack of us try. It,
Counting years.
yeah.
It was a hurricane once.
And then
It was an
COVID.
excuse. Then COVID was an
Because
excuse.
DOT's broke. So then they were fixing all the roads on the eastern part of the state because of the hurricanes. And then you had COVID and they were getting no revenue from gas. So then they just didn't have any money to
Pick
do it.
pick an answer.
Yeah.
That's all.
All we heard were excuses, not like when it's actually going to happen. So we are everything is looking like
And I will say
Really
our
good.
two people that we've
our
been.
state legislatures
State legislators.
Yeah. have been pushing very
both,
hard to help us.
Why am I forgetting that?
Todd Johnson,
Todd
and David
Johnson and
Willis.
David Willis have been a big part of pushing that and getting us, not only that, but also getting us other funds for other things, grants and different things that we're looking at right now. So we have great ties with them. We've got finally for years, when I first started, the county commissioners was, an issue, and that's just recently changed. So we're anxious to see how they're going to start voting with the rest of the stuff that's going on in towns. And so we'll see how that goes. But it's good to have friends in those places, I guess. But it's still, it is a state-owned road, and it is, we will continue to put officers on there, and we've now moved to full-time around. We used to only do it during the school, when school was open. Now it's year-round.
Can we tell him another thing? By putting the officers there, they tell us that was part of the problem because there was no deaths and no major accidents. And because of that, they said we had no need to have it
Yeah.
done real quick.
We couldn't get safety funding and
It's ironic, doesn't it?
it does. So we couldn't get safety funding for it and it did not move us up on like the critical list.
Yeah, it's probably one of the worst intersections, which I refuse to allow my
Yeah.
kids to even go in that intersection because it's
Yeah.
that dangerous.
You almost feel like we've been dodging a bullet just through sheer luck. Up to the point, if you look at the amount of traffic and the odd shape of that intersection to begin with.
So
Gotta comply.
one of the things this is 5-6 years ago, I said, invited DOT to get in the car with me. And then I pulled into Meadowlark. And then I tried to get out of Meadowlark after I pulled in. He goes, "This is crazy." I go, "You think it's crazy? We have buses come in and out of here in the mornings and in the afternoons 3 times a day. So it's crazy now just for a car, and you guys won't, and still it's almost like they needed, I think I did ask the question, you were not showing enough body bags.
Need a fatality.
You need a fatality, and that just, you become, all of a sudden it's an issue and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I said that to a DOT rep in our old village hall. I remember sitting there talking to him. I go, "So we need more body bags?" He's like, "Well, I didn't say that." And I'm like, "Well, you kind of did. So which is it? We either do or we don't." And he was like, "Well," and he wouldn't.
But the officers have done a great job there, and it's
Yeah.
volunteer.
Well, see,
So it's good.
I think you need to tell him more.
Oh, no, wait.
State, new county commissioners from everybody. No one wants to accept, including other towns, even though the people go through here, they will not assist us in paying these officers.
We've asked Waxhaw to participate, and they have chosen
Union County.
Union County. They said no. Weddington.
And
So-
everybody uses these roads.
There are
I mean, with
17,000 cars a day. We're only 6,000 residents. Yes.
All the traffic you see here, we are a cut through. We are an absolute cut through. There, people that you're seeing on the roads don't live here. And in fact, the folks that are coming in from South Carolina, it's like Newtown Road has gotten that busy.
Andy wanted a Culver road.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want, and by the way, speaking about body bags, I guess the one that's got the attention is there's going to be eventually in the future at Bonds Grove and where that Y is, where Bonds Grove
Oh,
Church
right,
Road.
right.
That right there, that's gotten the attention of the DOT.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I can see that too.
we've gotten the county to secure funds or earmark funds for that. The county with participating. So it is on the radar. How soon that happens, I mean, you're talking with DOT and it becomes an issue.
There's an 18-car pileup.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, traffic circle, that's good too.
There's more.
But wait, there's more. It's like an infomercial.
Question. The thing about it is, this is what we're talking about. Don't live because with, just live out here. I live in so-and-so, you don't live in Mark. Because we get phone calls that say, why is this traffic control? Why is this? Where do you live? Well, I live so-and-so. Well, you don't live in Mark. Why do you know? But you can see here, we try to do things to help other people out here, say, hey, this is what we're doing, but they don't know that we pay for this, that we go out and live in several years.
And
It's part of the human condition to operate under assumptions, partial information.
And as we talk about roads, and taking over roads, this council has looked at when that roundabout comes in, we are potentially looking at taking the roundabout right here, the second roundabout and the future third roundabout in and bringing it into Marvin. Here's the reason why. We can right away say no longer 18 wheelers. Okay? Because we own the roads. We can say speed limit 25 miles an hour, depending on who you are in the council. So those are things, because the bigger plan for, if you looked at what we're trying to do with the Heritage District, it's kind of hard to create like a downtown, but for years, everyone has identified this area as the downtown area, the gathering point. So that's why we've changed some of the zoning, which involves about 12 to 13 different landowners, including us. And, we're talking about trying to find a location for a farmer's market. What else we can do as far as, the way you keep the big stores out is you limit the size of the building. Target's never going to want a 1,500 square foot building. I learned that the average size, so a few years ago, the average size of your retail space is 1,500 square feet. So small shops, whether it's could be a real estate company, low traffic, could be a flower shop, could be an ice cream, something that brings, we've even, kicked around ideas of what's great about this form-based code that we've created as part of the Heritage District is we get to decide what the council gets to decide what it looks like, or sort of to some extent, and what uses we would accept as far as now we're not going to allow a mattress store. We're not going to allow a tattoo shop and stuff. So but those are things that we really want to focus on. Because you got all that traffic coming. It's a way to get people off the street and maybe, put them into that area. But to give you an idea of what we can do just in one person's lot, right across will be the middle roundabout. So the roundabout that heads to Waxham. Right. Property to the right, immediate right off of that, it's 13 acres. You can literally take downtown Matthews and plop it in there. Would we do that?
No,
Very unlikely.
say it loud.
No. But that's what you could fit in that area. And then you start thinking, okay, what kind of things do you want to allow? And we learned a lot from, I think, individuals that came to, it didn't cost the Village of Marvin anything, is they went out and they looked at everything we had, which included the park and all other aspects. As we were trying to figure out, how do you really create a town from nothing? Because nobody's in our group has done it before. So we're trying to get all the assets, and they came back as you have to have walkability, which leads to the trails and make that, but you have to have rooftops too. So if you look at this from 50,000 feet, this whole area is about 100 square, how many, 110?
126 acres.
126
125
acres.
23 acres.
By right, that fits, in the probably high 80, 90 homes or something could go in there, but it doesn't make sense to put homes there. And homes, when you go high, high density, and I will say, just for those that are listening, the properties you're heading towards Waxhaw, right before Henry Nesbitt, it's 100 acres. By right, Stacy, how? What did I say? I haven't, okay, I'm it was street from. But there's 100 acres that's sold. They were allowed to build, I think by right, they were close to 80 homes by home. There was a proposal for 150 homes in that area. And a lot of those were age restricted. We did not agree at that time. And what's going in there is 62 homes. So you got to remember, every home has a child, or 2 or 3 times 60 homes. That's going to affect the schools. And that's kind of what we're thinking, big picture. But that'll be a great asset when it does. But again, we can't control, we're almost built out, quite frankly. Almost all the land that's available has been.
What about the infrastructure? I mean, since the conversation moved to, future forecasting and roofs coming in, is there a plan for the infrastructure to keep up with the growth? Because
when you say
I
infrastructure,
could be hard pressed. I would be hard pressed to believe that at some point somebody decided to spend the money on, infrastructure. So, plumbing and sewage, electric, you name it, right? Utilities. That they would spend the money on a gamble of future growth, right? I'm going to plant a seed. I want to enjoy the shade of it. So I'm just curious what the plan is for those kinds of infrastructure utilities, right? To keep pace with, if there's going to be, like you said, more homes, more people, more consumption, stuff.
Yeah.
There's stuff in the ground and, wire lines, power lines.
it's a great question. A lot of these, what's great about it is we're also leaving it up to the landowners to decide what they're going to do and how it all works. I will tell you, the one proposal that we did pass as a council was on the far end where the future roundabout is going to be. And it's, they need a pump station approved. So that's the next process at the county in the next couple of weeks. They've got to approve the pump station. Now, whether the county commissioners are going to do that may affect the infrastructure because they're willing to put that pump station in. That pump station will feed everything that or could be used from the rest of the acreage that comes this way from that location there. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now, which we thought, well, it could be another delay if the county, but we're trying to put everything in line. As far as there's natural flow for that's really left to the developer. As far as sewage and water, if I'm not mistaken, that's usually up to the developer, correct?
Yeah, Union County maintains and owns all the water and sewer infrastructure. So any type of approvals for any type of residential development has to get approval from them. When it comes to capacity and so on, it kind of varies because we are in 2 different wastewater treatment plant basins. A majority of a lot of the wastewater from Marvin does flow to 6 Mile, Mecklenburg County.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, the county has identified a lot of their failing issues or either with the current infrastructure in the ground or their wastewater treatment facilities. I think they're in the process of doing a capital improvements plan to kind of phase that for, not necessarily for growth, but to maintain what's currently there. Because that's the thing, is I know some of those are already at capacity. And that's part of the reason why they did the moratorium on certain residential developments and so on. So, but for any type of utility infrastructure that's being proposed, that goes through Union County.
But so there's, I mean, unless I missed it completely, there's not kind of an overarching plan that says, other than leaving it up to the individual developer, but I mean, they're tying into something, right? Because they're only putting in the land that they own.
Yeah, you were talking
Tell me
about
just
the word that wasn't allowed to be spoken here, which was called a master plan. They got a lot of pushback. It's like a master plan. Well, you got to kind of include in how that would all work, but
But no, I mean, all utilities are going to go through the county. So if the county has a bigger plan, I think they're working on that bigger grand plan, but they're not keeping up. They're definitely behind in sewer capacity. But I know that they're working on some solutions.
So the county's aware of our plans and the creation of this district. And so it would be on them to put whatever infrastructure expansion needs they feel would be into their capital improvements plan. And they're currently doing that as we speak.
And
it's just a matter of tying in.
But then that just means they're keeping up with what you're telling them is growth, right?
That's correct.
There's nothing that they're doing to stay ahead.
No.
well, some of that will be identified in their capital improvements plan. The other thing that like with it being the county system, the one thing we're trying to do, and especially with the Heritage District, is we can kind of have some flexibility and ask the developer to put in extra infrastructure or more stub outs. And, if they agree, then that's kind of be one of their conditions of their approval. And the one that did get approved back in August, part of their conditions of their approval was that they had to provide the pump station to be built for adjoining property owners to potentially connect into their system that they're putting in, as well as stub out for water connection, because from the water line utility extension for the other property adjoining to it to potentially connect as it develops in the future, or if it develops in the future. So instead of kind of then having to go back and do some of that at a later time, we try to get ahead of it and think of it, of what we can do on our end.
Thank you.
Norman,
Thank you.
thank you for the question.
Yeah, great questions. That's okay.
So what's going on with the zoning at 26? So is it 26? Crane Road. What's that? That's right beside my neighborhood.
Yes, I know. I can't even talk about it, can I?
You can,
Can I?
but just disclose.
You want me-
Okay, so I own a piece of property in the smaller section of the reserve on your side that backs up to that property. So I got a letter saying that it was up for rezoning. What they are proposing is 4 houses on 2 acres with basically 0 common area and very small setbacks on sides and front and back, if I remember correctly.
The owner of that home?
No, I don't think so.
And to also,
I don't think so. It's a
The owner of that home is a business owner in.
oh, maybe it is.
I think it's,
The pizza place.
Oh, yes, it
Yes.
is then. Yes, it is.
I know a lot of people in Marvin.
Yeah, so yes, that is who wants to develop it. They own a development company. Because it is Marvin adjacent and that does not follow our ordinances, like our ordinances are basically 1 house per acre with including common area. Well, we can't, but what we did do was we went to the county, talked to their zoning person and said, this is not something that Marvin would like. This is not something that Marvin would approve. I think we did a resolution against it. So we have put, as much weight that we can behind it, but it is not ultimately our decision. And it does fall within their plans, like their zoning.
the county.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to clarify, it is in Union County. It's not in Marvin.
Yeah.
But the county and their comp plan identified these areas. So it is like properties that are kind of adjacent to the municipalities that they do have to refer to the municipality for some type of just opinion. And that's supposed to go into their decision. But ultimately it is the county's decision on that because it's not a part of our municipal limits. So their zoning's different than ours.
But I'm saying, like, that's why this needs to be all annexed.
Yes.
It should not be all of these little
Yes.
That's a problem.
Yes.
And back to the representation, so if it was in Marvin, you'd have the village of Marvin going to the county versus a neighborhood or an individual going to the county appealing that. But we've done what we think is right in, trying to keep things consistent with what's.
Union County would make the decision.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
It could be, yeah. Or they could put some more restrictions on some of the side setbacks and to make it a little more buffered, but right now it's minimal. Yeah, because I came to the public input meeting that they had and there was a lot of people from a neighborhood surrounding it that did not seem to have a problem with the density and I was very surprised. Yeah, so I brought it up to council and said, hey, guys, like this is Marvin adjacent. This is not something that we would have in Marvin. So let's at least, because maybe it will become part of Marvin one day and we don't want that much density in that small of a property. Yeah. Come on down.
What else is happening in Marvin?
Oh.
What exciting stuff have we talked about?
The loop, the grant. Talk about the loop.
This is
Really
really
good.
good
This is
stuff.
exciting.
Okay, so for those that do not know, the village got awarded a grant, I guess it started in 19, but fully awarded in 2021. It was a spring.
20 awarded in 21.
For the completion of the Marvin Loop. The Marvin Loop is pedestrian, sidewalk, multi-use path. Some of it's already installed. It's what you see going down Marvin School Road here and then going up Joe Carr and kind of outside the development. The intent's to have the loop fully completed, which would go down Newtown Road and down Marvin Road and connect at Joe Carr. The grant is for the sidewalk or pedestrian improvements along Newtown and Marvin Road to Joe Carr. We're in the process of the early stages of that. It is a federally administered grant, so it is a process. There's a bunch of hoops to jump through, a lot of steps that basically have to go through NCDOT and then up to the feds. The goal is that based off my conversation with NCDOT is potentially once we get the engineering documents and the environmental documents done, hopefully in the fall, we would start right-of-way procurement for the land needed to complete the project and then potentially construction start at the fall of next year, 2024. So looking at 2 to 3 years of full completion, you'll have then that full pedestrian connectivity for the neighborhoods that are there, as well as other ways through our greenway systems to connect and have walkability to Village Hall and further developments.
Hunter, how much was the grant for?
The total project is 1.7 million. It's a 60-40 grant. So we are basically receiving $1.1 million in total for the project.
So the village is obviously coming up with the rest.
Yeah.
Yep.
That being said, and then if I have Marvin residents here, it's a good time to ask. We've kicked around the idea because years ago when we got into the road business at 5 cents, the idea was you only took so many roads every year. You'd take new roads and any new developments that came in would automatically become part of Marvin. But it doesn't seem fair if you're all paying the same taxes, yet we only own 50% of the road. So we talked about kicking around the idea of a bond to consider. So there's a 2-step process. One, well, 3 really, because one, you got to decide, do you want to spend the money to do all the work, legwork that it takes to get things in order just to get it on the ballot? And then your second challenge is you need the marketing campaign to get people to understand what our goal is and what we would want to encompass in that. So once you get what it costs, then it goes to the ballot. If it goes down, then we've just taken a lot of money we've invested and it didn't pass. And if it passes, now you have a big chunk of money that you can get to the rest of the roads in a quicker fashion, because the process, again, when they laid it out so many years ago, when it was, and again, it wasn't this board, but it was just very slow process to do that. Ironically, it involved the council's neighborhoods that got done first, but it was interesting how that kind of played out, but, not saying that there was anything done, but what we have in put into place though, just so you know, if we're staying with this process, is actually decided by engineers that is separate from the village. They come back to us. They tell us the schedule, what needs to be maintained for just a clear coat. What do they call it? Is it clear? Fog coat. I never get all the terms right. Should have a cheat sheet for me here so I can look. But there's different processes to maintain the life of the road. We think we're doing the right thing with the waste hauling, so you have limited vehicles on there. For those that are developed, again, to Kim's point earlier, if you're finishing out a development, we would want, if you were to come to us and say, okay, we're in Marvin, we're finished, we would make sure the roads were up to snuff, so we're not taking anything, that's going to be in repair, need repair right away. So that's kind of how, even back when the state was doing it, the state would say, oh, you got to get it up to our standards before we take the roads over. So there's a process. The idea is, would this community entertain a bond if it were to be issued? And what would be included in that bond are things we're discussing right now as far as long-term for the village and how that would be implemented. But it would get us to our funding where we could get the roads for everyone done, and everyone would be under the Marvin umbrella.
It would also help the funding for the Bonds Grove, Waxaw Marvin roundabout that we're going to have to pay for. That estimate right now is at 5.5 million, and our 4.5 million. Oh, I thought it was over 5. But then we're also going to have to put a roundabout at Marvin Road and Joe Carr Road. That we've already been talking to DOT about that, or the county about that.
We've been talking to both. We're in the process of working with Union County right now on doing their 2023 critical intersection program, which identifies dangerous intersections, and then they commit fines. Then the municipalities can request those funds. It's what we did do with Waxaw Marvin Bonds Grove, and then we submitted an application through CRTPO, which is the Regional Transportation Organization, to hopefully get funded through with DOT. But yeah, I think the other 2 intersections currently I'm working with the county to make sure is on their 2023 list is Joe Carr and Marvin, and Marvin School Road.
And Joe Carr, yeah. So that bond would also help us with the funds that we're going to need to pony up for those. We're not going to have to pay for all of it, but we're definitely going to have to pay a big chunk to get those done.
And the impetus for this, us talking about it, is we're trying to get as creative as we can, because to the gentleman's question earlier, why we did so well on these 2, why not that one? That delay has cost us significantly. So we had proposed, believe it or not, to the state saying, let us pay for it in today's dollars. This was 4 or 5 years ago, because you got to understand, if it comes in at X amount of dollars, we're on the hook for any overruns of what they estimated it to be at 50%. The town we'll split it with the state. So that's why we were trying to say, well, then let us pay for it now, and then you can pay us back when you have that budget, and at least, and they wouldn't entertain that either. So we've lost a lot in the delays because of inflation and oil costs. And now we don't know, quite frankly, what bogey we're going to get when that roundabout is complete, but we will be on the hook for 50% of the overruns. And they already have 300,000 of our dollars. Is that correct? Right around there. I know I'm always wrong on numbers. It was what? Over 2. At one point, they were holding on to our money, and we said, okay, if this isn't going to give us our money back, and we'll get it to you. And but that was you know, kind of the things we're kicking around for the future of how we can accomplish and get to things. We're excited to talk about, I think we just discussed it in our retreat. We're going to be getting some new, at the park, new equipment, right? You want to talk about it? Playground equipment?
Correct, yes, playground equipment.
Yeah.
Playground.
My mind's going 5,000 miles an hour. I'll get to everything.
There's, when you asked about these things and we come up and tell you what's going on, nobody, it gets lost. Why? The reason for all these roundabouts, Bonds Grove and everything else, is they're going to tear up 16 Providence Road in a few years, and it's going to be a mess getting up and down, and everybody thinks that traffic's going to come this way. And so, we get requests from South Carolina, can you widen your roads here a little bit because we want to get some traffic off of 521. They got a $25, $30 million thing where they're going to widen, but they don't have anywhere to put them. They want everybody to come this way.
Yeah. We're gonna blow it, let's bounce up and get rid of
Well,
18-wheelers.
But no one is allowing us to do that. Everybody is worried about other things. They're not worried about Marvin. And we have to take up for ourselves. The last thing that come, all the little roads that come off of 521, they were willing to take and widen all level to the state line. So it make more easy for everybody to get over this way. Okay, I mean, so if you're asking these questions, you need to understand the big picture of it. I mean, all these things you're asking about are small. There is a big picture there, and everybody around us, they want to work their roads. They want them to come through Marvin. 16, 521. Thank you. So, you might as well have all the good news.
We're trying to be creative too with, because it's, you can only do so much with 6-cent tax. And we, by the way, this was pointed out at the retreat. It had been 16 years since we raised the tax. We went from 5 cents to 6 cents 2 years ago.
Yep.
And the reason we went up a penny is because when we sent out the survey, it was overwhelming that they wanted another full-time officer. Well, so if you're looking at Waxhaw, they're at 38 cents, we're at 6 cents. Weddington's just under 5, I believe, or right around 5. Wesley Chapel's 1.5, I want to say. Stallings and some of them. So one of the things of getting into the roads, we get POW bill money, which is a grant from the government, the state, I should say. And we get so much based on mileage, is that correct?
And population.
Population, yes.
But don't we have to have a minimum tax
Yeah,
base?
the minimum tax base has to be 5 cents. So the reason we went from 5 to 6, after 16 years, and 10 of the years I was here that we never raised the dollar, is because the community said we wanted another full-time officer. Well, when we did the math and you added the 1 cent tax, it came to our increase, and 1 cent increases our budget by just over $100,000. That's about exactly what it costs to put another full-time officer, because we don't have a police force. We have to go through the sheriff, county sheriff, and they decide. These are the tough decisions that they're deciding what the contract looks like the state. They tell us, you want the roundabout, you got to be on the hook for X. That you want this sheriff department here, you got to be on the hook, or you got to just basically go with our rules and our negotiations. So a lot of ideas that we're kicking around going forward for, I don't think we're quite big enough, personal opinion, for our own police force and what that would involve, but,
But if we close up some of those donut holes and we start adding more people, then we could.
yeah. Just trying to see what other big things that, because we talked a lot on the agenda, for the weekend, which we just came off of, which is really, really productive and a lot of good ideas were going back and forth. but roads were a big part of it. The park, which he's Public Works.
So in the retreat, we also discussed a Public Works division, which would help. It would help us take better care of the community, the roads, curb and gutter, drainage, all the different things that we're responsible for, along with our trails, basically maintenance. So creating a Public Works department would help us do a better job at doing all of that. So we've discussed it. We've discussed different scenarios on how we'd like to go about it to facilitate that change. Right now, currently, our Parks Department is taking care of all of those responsibilities. So roads are not necessarily in their wheelhouse. So getting somebody that we talked about, possibly an engineer, or we talked about different things that would help us have a better handle on taking care of those aspects of the village.
Yes, sir. Yep.
It's about 40 to 50,000 per year. 40 to 50,000 per year. That was what we budgeted for the last ARPA funding, 40 or 50. It was right at 100. Yeah.
Yeah, that brings another 40 or 50,000 in, but if you go back, how many? Yeah, but if you go back how many years we were doing it, for almost 7, 8 years, that's almost $300,000-400,000 and which again, we got no participation from any of the other surrounding communities, so. Any other questions? Trying to think, we pretty much covered everything. Yeah. Again, reminder, we have coffee with council. We'll have tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Wayne and I, and it rotates. Council signs up for that ahead of time. So if you want a particular person, you can request that, but we can't promise it. But we make changes when people, are out of town or whatever. That's twice a month. Our next meeting is a work session on Thursday. WUMA is Thursday afternoon. It's going to be held in Mineral Springs at 4:00. I'm trying to think. Oh, Marvin Day. We did that last year. It was an incredible success. We're going to have it at Eford Park this year. So that will be how the events will be held there.
June 3rd.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. June 2nd, we will have an event here at Village Hall for a meet and greet with council, an art display of local artists. That'll be Friday night. And then Saturday, we'll have the 5K that's going to start at Marvin Elementary, along with some other events going on there. And then the events at Marvin Eford Park will start at 11, and they will go through the evening, kind of capping off with a concert and fireworks as of right now. And then lots of events with a dunk tank that council has said that they will get in, and that money will be used for improvements at the
And the
park.
mayor will be there in it.
Yeah, except for Wayne, because he's got a bum wing. But yes, we're all going to take our turn in the dunk tank.
Yeah. What we agreed to is things, but that's exciting. I mean, I was very excited and thrilled, and Jamie was a big part. He's not here today, our council member. He was a big part of getting the group to come in and sing, and he's actually a good singer himself. But a lot of things we're trying to create a sense of community, and it starts with things like that, whether it's 5K run that we had, and we had a car show at the time at Marvin High. And it's just unfortunate this year, Yeah. Unfortunately, this year, Marvin High School could not commit to the date, any date. Quite frankly, we threw out of them because of potential conflicts. Yeah. You have what? Oh, because of the principal? Yeah.
They can't hear you though. It's fine. You're too far away from the mic. You're all right.
Oh,
Yeah, we were unable to secure a date because they were worried about having rain dates for graduation. So we moved everything to, this is what they told us. They said they wouldn't entertain a date till the end of June, beginning of July. And for us, that was just too late, too hot, too many people are gone. So, yeah. Any other questions?
and I'm trying to think.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Thank you for
And
coming.
if you need any information, go to the website. All of our contact information is there. All of our contacts information is there. If you want to set up meetings, we're happy to do it. Staff is always available. So, and we are always sending out information about events, what's going on in the community. So if you want to sign up, even though you're not technically in Marvin, you can still sign up for the residents list and get all of like the events that are going on in the community.
That's it.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions,
Good.
any comments from the council?
Nope.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
How many do we have total?
That's more. I thought we were gonna have 5. That was my number. 5 was my number.
Really?
But I said for
Pretty good.
sure.
It's pretty good. So we gotta get Tammy on council. We gotta get her on council. Get her or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you were right. You were right.
See,
Damn.
she's on the school board.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her why it happened.
Doesn't matter.